Brian Wang, it's just another day in the crazy last 10 days regarding Elon Musk and his enterprises, in particular the SpaceX XAI thing. But I mean, Tesla too. I mean, it is just absolutely fascinating to watch this man work. And now he's got an IPO coming up in June, probably on his birthday, June 28th.
Mhm.
And I'm guessing that he's starting to sell. I think that's what the all hands the all hands meeting was today in Memphis. It was a recruiting program,
For
um,
XAI.
and it was an all hands on deck program to get everybody ginned up and excited about the future. But I
Mhm.
think it was also a sales program to get people excited about buying some SpaceX stock when it goes public. So anyway, I know that I think you found this meeting as fascinating as I did.
Yeah.
Talk to me about what you saw. I'd love to hear what your version of it is.
Okay. Let me go through it. Okay. So in the XAI thing, we got Moonbase Alpha. Um, so we see here the uh, mass driver. So that elevated magnetic rail thing is basically the mass driver. So magnetically, you would launch things up to about 5,600 miles per hour in order to get escape lunar gravity, right?
So this
With a bit
is
extra. Good.
so this is this anything like the suit the what do you call it the his original idea for a what was it called the loop uh
Launch loop?
no the one that
The Hyperloop. Hyperloop.
Hyperloop. So it's magnetically, it's off the ground magnetically. Is that the idea? So that it can get
Right.
up to speed faster? Okay.
No, 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 because it needs to, besides getting up to speed, you need to kind of go upwards. So
Oh,
you don't like go really fast
yeah.
straight. You want to go really fast, a little bit
Upward.
upwards, so you go, can't get out of the gravity. Yeah.
Okay.
So
All
I
right.
need to kind of like, yeah, go up a slope. Right. Yeah. So you may, the actual thing may end up being, where it goes from there and then goes up, a little lunar mountain or something like that, like a grade, so I can go upwards and I don't have to build a bunch of stuff underneath it, right?
Okay.
But
All
they just
right.
wanted to show it as opposed to, you know, um, what they actually do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Got
Which,
it.
yeah, yeah. So yes, Hyperloop had some stuff. There were various versions of it. One with some kind of um, propeller engine thing, kind of like flying through um, thing with the bypass and stuff. So they changed several times.
Right.
Like he had the new proposal, and then um, there was work done by other groups toward it. And I think we've only gone subsonic on it, so
Mm.
it would go up to like 600 miles per hour, I think, which is about twice the speed of a high-speed rail.
Okay.
The fastest high-speed rails. You have magnetic levitation trains. I rode the one in Shanghai from Shanghai Airport to Pudong, another area um, within Shanghai, and I think pretty much you can get to 300 some miles per hour. There've been some that gone to 400, 500 at least under
Mm.
test
Mm.
conditions.
Mm.
Um, anyway, so this is somewhat like those magnetic trains. You'd have linear induction motors, magnetic things in order to accelerate to these higher speeds,
Right.
going up to about 7 times the speed of sound. That's
Okay.
what you're looking to go, right?
Okay.
Like going in vacuum, so if
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
wouldn't have to worry about like air friction or anything like that, right?
Right.
Just a matter of like getting to go. Um, to do 1,000 terawatts per year, that's about 10 billion tons of satellite per year. That's in the little left-hand corner. That's what he's talking about. 10 billion tons of satellite launched into lunar, off the moon, just based on the um, uh, physics of
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
And 50% efficiency, you need 2 terawatts of electrical power in order to run the mass launchers. And there would
Okay.
be several. Probably, I'm guessing each one launches 1 million tons per year. So then you'd have like 1,800 or 2,000 that would be launching all this stuff. So you're making many, many of these things. And then I looked at a 70-page paper done by a master's student, um, updating the mass driver literature. So he reviewed the literature and then he was looking at it. So a guy in San Jose State did that with a professor so he did a 7-page study, relatively recent, 2023. Mass driver studies have gone back to the 60s and 70s, and like that. But now we've got a slightly more updated version of it. His version was to make it really compact, only about 490 meters long. So a little bit more than the aircraft carrier launchers that launch a F-18 or something like that off the deck of an aircraft carrier. They have magnetic launchers for the newest aircraft carriers. But they only get up to like about the speed of sound, right? You go like faster. By doing a far shorter one, you would need less cement, because this would need some kind of like moon cement, right? But I don't want to use water. There is some water on the moon, but I don't want to like waste water, precious lunar water on cement, because there's like non-water cement. So you can do sulfur cement, the other kinds. Anyway, and then by doing it really short, 1,000 Gs. So basically 1,000 Gs is kind of like a naval gun. So they have the big battleship naval guns firing off projectiles that weigh as much as like a Volvo, a car, right? So then they fire off those things in order to destroy other ships and that kind of thing. When you launch out of a cannon, you're going up to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 Gs, depending on how long your barrel is, right? Electronics can survive 1,000 Gs, right? You just have to make it. So when you have your smartphone and then you drop it from 6 feet, that stop is, 1,000 Gs.
Wow.
Right? When I drop it from 6 feet, and it survives, right? Because you have the electronics built to withstand. You don't put in little parts that, in acceleration or deceleration get ripped off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so it can be done. I would think that the first ones that they would make using like 1% of the cement and other materials would be a high acceleration short one. You would still need the same amount of power, right? Because I still need to get speed, and mass equals acceleration squared. I still need the same number of joules, right? I'm just like doing it faster, right? Anyway, so a 500-meter long, like really short one, just to like get things going. Maybe they stay there, but there are reasons to go down to longer, bigger in order to do that. In terms of like not having things so strained on the stuff. But that's a engineering choice down the road. But so I think they can do that, and they're going to use non-water cement to do it. They'll go for higher accelerations. They may never go down below 10 G or 50 Gs. 10 G acceleration, your track would be 31 kilometers long, about 20 miles long. At about 50 Gs, then you get down to about like 5 miles long.
Okay.
Right? So again, it's a trade-off between how much strain I'm putting on the stuff I'm launching versus how big and how much. I still need to make a lot of power.
Yeah. Okay.
So here we have another view. This is actually of the moon, right? They had the moon and they got like solar going all across the moon.
Right.
So that, that amount of solar would be enough to power your mass driver. And then you see these like little lines. That looks like they're taking power from this little like band that's going all around the moon to power mass drivers. And then all these little lights, I think those are satellites being launched.
Okay.
So they're constantly launching satellites out into the void, going to some location where the satellites would be used. So that would be the dots, each of the dots is probably the size of a city. So they're making the dots easier for you to see, so you can like imagine. You wouldn't actually see that. Although if they make that much solar, you probably would see that. And then there are some people on X who are complaining, oh, they're going to ruin my view of the moon. It's so terrible. My view of the moon will be ruined. But the alternative is they can build it on Earth, a lot of it on Earth, in which case, are you driving by, the Colossus in or OpenAI Stargate, these massive things that are taking up like many square miles, and
Right, right.
and then they using up natural gas and causing pollution, stuff like that.
So,
Okay.
so I mean, literally, will it make any difference in your view of the moon?
I would love to see it. I would love to be able to see the
Some
amount of
human
solar
activity on the moon.
on human activity on the moon that I can see from here. And if we're doing thousands of launches to the moon,
Yeah, yeah,
that means we will be going. You could go to the moon. You will
yeah,
be,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
they'll bring the cost down to if they bring the cost down to $10 per kilogram to go to orbit. Then it may only be $50 per kilogram to go to the moon in a
Okay.
mature situation. So that means people weigh less than 100 kilograms mostly.
Yeah.
So then be a $5,000 trip, like
Okay.
a expensive cruise
Yeah,
going
yeah,
to the
yeah,
moon.
yeah.
So
Cool, cool. And Elon
uh,
mentioned that several times.
yeah, and Elon responded to another one of my posts talking about the scale of the 10,000, 40,000 tons of material going to the moon based on what he's talking about for version 4.
Mm.
Um, and then this was followed up from a few months ago, a couple months ago, where he had also replied to more of my talk about AI data centers in space.
Right.
Um, a little commercial now is that, oops, do I have it here? Okay, is that I'm going to give a lot of people highlights about the analysis here, but that if they, can sign up below to a little questionnaire form, if you're a accredited investor, I can go into far more details. I can also answer your questions because I'm giving you a general view of things. You may have questions about it, thinking about what this world-changing thing might do. And so you can sign up down below for that. Um,
Well,
send.
so there's lots of things in terms of SpaceX, in terms of the new company SpaceX
Mhm.
that's going to after just happened after the merger, the possibility of a merger with Tesla, and then
Yeah.
there's I don't know tens of thousands of companies that will be
Mhm.
supplying some of the things that SpaceX is going to need, whether that's services or whether that's goods or whatever. Is that some
Mhm.
of the kind of things you'd be able to talk to
Yeah, I'd be able to talk about those kind of
in a
things
one-on-one conversation with somebody?
in a one-on-one conversation. Yeah, or I
Right.
could discuss, which impact on various AI companies, hardware companies, all that kind of stuff. I could
And
go
then
to
and then there
talk
might be
about
some
that.
unique investment opportunities.
There could be, but this is not, I'm working with wealth advisors. I'm not a certified wealth advisor. This is not selling a particular stock. I'm just, want to make myself available to educate people about that in a more detailed way and have a private conversation and answer questions on it.
All right. And I have to also say, I'm not either. I don't have any of those licenses either. However, there's a possibility that I'll make a little bit of money off of Brian's activities. So, all right. All right. So back to the slideshow. What's next?
Okay, let
Oh,
me
and there's
get back
information
to,
on my side and his side. So there's
yeah.
information below how to reach Brian.
Okay, did I get back to it, or I don't, doesn't look like I'm
It's
sharing
just
properly.
not share. It says you're going to share, but there's nothing. Oh, no.
Okay, let me try this again. Let me get this going. Pause for a second. Okay. Um,
I'll edit both of these out
okay.
so you can feel less stress.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. Share. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Okay. Slideshow. There we go. Okay, yeah. So Elon replied to my previous post. So I think that's evidence that, you know, Elon is kind of saying that the thing that I'm saying about scale and other stuff is correct. So I
Mhm.
feel those is validation that I'm kind of on Elon's wavelength as to what's going to happen. Um, and then here is an animation of when Elon applied to the FCC, SpaceX applied to the FCC to launch 1 million
Mhm.
satellites. This is a kind of rendering about where they talked about putting them. The one kind of going there's a big fat set of stuff, and then there's the thinner one. The thinner one is the sun synchronous orbit. So it's kind of where night becomes day, on
Yeah.
the Earth.
Yeah.
That would be going around there. The next slide will show that kind of like in a different angle. And then they've also talked about putting some satellites, all around, North America, Europe, around the equator. So two different sets of locations that they're looking to put their first million satellites. No, I get the other one. Also, like they'll be using Tesla bots, so all the companies will be involved. XAI will be running the AI for it. SpaceX will be landing things, building a lot of solar. Tesla probably involved in making a lot of the solar for that. The vehicles, all the power, all the storage, all the electrical things that they're making, all can work in airless environments. So they'll be putting that there. The tunneling, they're probably tunneling for mines, for human habitation, all that kind of stuff. So all that's going to be for the massive amount of construction that they're going to look to do. Things are still proceeding on the ground. Version 3, they did a cryo test. So version 3 is cryo tested, tracking towards the March launch of it. And then version 4, 2027, which will be an even bigger and better Starship 3 that will land the 200 tons, which is one of the posts that Elon talked about for doing that. Now, when they do that, they will be able to only need 5 refuelings or 5 to 6 refuelings to go to the moon.
Oh, okay.
So right now you need like 10 or 12 refuelings to go to the moon. Because you end up with only like 10% of your fuel left, so you need to have 10 times refueling. Now you could end up with 20% of your fuel left, and then only need 5 refuelings to get a full load, and then go to the moon with your 200 tons of payload.
So that would be right now the plan is, I mean, the Artemis program, et cetera, the contract that Elon has with the government or SpaceX has with the government, that is that for a 2027 landing on the moon with merch?
I think it's probably gonna be 2028.
Okay.
They are trying, I think, there's been talk about 2027 for an unmanned thing.
Oh, unmanned.
Yeah, I think you need to do an unmanned version first before doing a manned version. But they are, because they're now going to do a perhaps March of Artemis 2, which is using the SLS rocket to take astronauts going around the moon. So kind of like I think it's the Apollo 8 that did that, where you go and you orbit the moon, don't land and come back. So that's the plan for this next one. I'm kind of worried about that one because I don't think, they did one unmanned launch with SLS, and then now they're going straight to a manned launch. So it's kind of concerned how they're doing that. But decisions have been made. So, and then the launch of Artemis 3 depends upon Artemis 2 working right. Right. So if this thing doesn't work right, especially if you lost crew, it'd be massive delay everything. The other thing would be that the SLS launch is also involved in the Artemis 3 because astronauts are going up in an SLS in the next launch where you use SpaceX, and then they rendezvous with a Starship, Lunar Starship, and then that goes down. So it's massively complicated system in order to make this happen because they still they wanted to use SLS no matter what. Right. So using SLS, using Orion, and then that system cannot land on the moon. So then they said, well, what can land on the moon? Let's do Starship to do it. I think, if you do a proper program, you do Starship all the way, but
of course, yes.
Okay.
Well, I guess the benefit to the other one is that you don't need the 5 refuelings or 10 refuelings.
Well, you're still going to need it in order to go to land on the moon.
Oh, I thought smaller rockets didn't need the refueling, that they could go.
So Blue Origin is talking about doing a version where you don't land. You don't do the refueling to land on the moon. They're trying to beat SpaceX to that by saying, hey, we'll just use New Glenn. We won't do refuelings. But then it will be smaller. You're back to the Apollo, the Eagle lander size thing.
Right.
right? Because the physics of what we, our rocket's not bigger than Apollo, so
Right.
then you would still go to that size. But the way this works is kind of like a relay race. They're going to repeat the SLS launch with Orion, get to orbit, go near to the moon,
Right.
and then they rendezvous with a Starship, which has been refueled, because they can't get to near the moon if it hasn't refueled, and then it will then land on the moon and then come back. Again, needs a lot of fuel to do that, so it has to do the refuelings.
Right.
Yeah. So that's all the stuff that's going on there. And so we'll see in the next month or two if Artemis goes up. We'll see how well the testing goes this year and next year, and how quickly we can get to an actual landing on the moon. And there's working on plans to accelerate things, which have not revealed what the plans are.
Okay.
So, but I don't see how they get much earlier than 2028. It would, another discussion for another video.
Yes.
Raptor 3 here, second row, they're getting it down to $250,000 in cost. The Blue Origin BE4 on line 4, $8 million. So even though they talk about, Blue Origin competitive, they're 30 times more expensive on their engine.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. Maybe they can get to 50, per year in terms of like rocket launches, and then they have to increase the volume of their engine production up to like 200 or so, because they use like 7 to 9 engines in the booster. They have different configurations they're talking about, then 3 to 9 in the upper stage. So they're not recovering the upper stage.
Yeah.
So if they do 50 launches with New Glenn in a year, you have to replace 200 engines, just the same way that we in Falcon 9 have to replace one engine every time. So they had to replace 170 engines.
Sure.
Right. So that is a limiting factor on like, if I scale to 300 engines, then I can totally only do, even if I reuse the booster all the time.
Right.
I still am limited on how many launches I can do.
Now, I noticed today that there was a big article about the Chinese that are having their reusable rockets, but they're landing them in the ocean and then fishing them out. So is that strategy any good at all? I mean, it seems like that's going to take a lot of refurbishing, and
it's you can make them pretty waterproof. It could work.
Okay.
It's obviously not as good as landing on chopsticks and refueling and just going. I would have, but it could be kind of reusable, not rapidly reusable, but where like I fish it out of the water, salt water. I then, I design it so it can be in salt water and without that much damage. And then I bring it back, just like instead of landing on the drone ship, landing on the drone ship, the fastest turnaround is about like 1 to 2 weeks. It was originally about like a few months, right? So if you do that, you could reuse, but it will take you months probably, and then maybe you get it down to a few weeks.
Yeah.
Right. But you're not going to like land and go again, right? Because you have to fish your 200-ton, 1,000-ton thing out of the water, right? And I got to like transport it by barge, and then I got to like pull it out, recondition it and stuff. So it'll be expensive.
Yeah.
But if you're reusing, that's better than not reusing.
Right.
So, and if I at least recover the engines, right, that could solve the problem of like losing a bunch of engines, right? If I lose the booster and I lose like 9 engines, 30 engines, right, I got to like remake them all new. If I pull them out of the water and then just maybe I can get it so the fix up isn't that bad. So yeah, it could be better than nothing.
Gotcha.
Better than not reusing.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But they're behind. Like they're hoping to do something inferior to what Falcon 9 has been doing for 600, for 10 years. Yeah. So this also gets to everyone saying, "Oh, Blue Origin competitor." They're trying to do their third launch to orbit, right? They've done 2, one at the beginning of last year, one at the end of last year. So they're 1 year apart each time. And those are the first 2 they ever did. They've been around longer than SpaceX. They started before SpaceX, 25 years, and now they're going to their third launch, right? They want to do a bunch of launches during the year, right? But, and this third launch, they'll launch the AST Space Mobile, a competitor on direct-to-cell phone against SpaceX, right? But this will be the second commercial satellite of AST SpaceMobile. So third launch for Blue Origin, second satellite for this other company that's going to compete. Where SpaceX has 10,000 satellites, 650 of which are direct to cell phone.
Right.
Right. So yeah, the competitors are coming slowly. We'll see how fast they can go. Right. And then again, any disruption where you have some launch landing problem, and Blue Origin lost in their first launch, they lost the return booster. Right. They landed the second one. They're now going to try and reuse the boosters. This will be the first attempt to reuse a landed booster by someone other than SpaceX.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So we'll see them do it, but it's like a lot of things have to happen for them to like start getting the game, and they're still at least 10 years behind, and especially if SpaceX goes next level, right, faster and faster. So there's some cost things where I've analyzed things on cost, how the massively lower cost lets them launch satellites for far cheaper. Right. So the AST SpaceMobile, $35 to $45 million, including the cost of launch, and then SpaceX down at about a little over $1 million, including the cost of launch.
Right.
So then AI. So the whole reason you're doing this is for AI. Right. And then 𝐓𝐡𝐮𝐫𝐬𝐝, the venture capital company with like $15 billion, created by Mark Andreessen and Horowitz. They're talking about, like getting that all the white collar jobs, $6 trillion, way more than $300 billion, $400 billion per year of enterprise software, right? The possibilities are far more. I think you get all labor, all that other stuff. So you break the models, because they talk about before you're saying, oh, I'm replacing the software. And they say, okay, the TAM is this big. But breaking the model is like iPhone. They thought the mobile phone market was $200 billion because that's how big Nokia was. And then, Apple went, 15, 20 times bigger, right? Because they changed what the smartphone was doing. So that's the kind of thing. AI can change everything. And there's a lot of reasons you track the numbers in detail, how that's happening. And then people always worry about the bust, and they can see that the capex spending in 2001 got to like 100% of all cash flows, right? We're still at 40%. It's a lot, but we're like way below the peak years of the dot-com period, right? Yeah. So when you run the financial numbers, it's not that bad, and they continue to grow. But we are increasing the spending. So we increased from $400 billion last year from the big five to $705 based on adding up what they said they're going to do in the last quarterly call. Right. This is still only 65% of their free cash flow. They went from 33% of free cash flow to 75%. They still have more money they make every year than they're putting into this. Right. And if they get it where it's all profitable, they can spend all of it and they'll make money on it. It becomes profitable. And then we're on track to do that. In terms of how much AI there is without space AI. These are projections without space AI. We go from like 7 gigawatts, maybe 20 gigawatts this year, which is only a fraction of the green is the regular non-AI data centers, right? And then the dark blue and the blue for training and inference is how much we have. And they say that maybe we go to 82 gigawatts cumulative for AI in 2034. Wow. Right? 100 gigawatts per year is what Elon wants to launch in 1 year in like 2030, 2032. Right? So he'll double everything that's installed or more if he achieves that goal. Right? And then that means everything is growing faster. As fast as the trillions that are going into this are, right? This could go up 10 times faster. And then that's just the beginning, because then he'll go to 1,000 times faster by leveraging the moon. Right? So the scale is, these projections, if he's right, will be on that was quaint when we thought we'd only grow to 82 gigawatts and 200 gigawatts total for a day. Right. Yeah. And then there's a shortage, the demand. Demand for AI is even less than, as fast as we're building it up, we're still behind in terms of how much we want. And then the 400 going to 700, they are projecting to go to like $1 trillion plus by 2030 in
Right.
terms of how much we're spending. But then the problem without AI space is you cannot build the power and stuff fast enough. So you cannot, even though you have the money to spend because you're so crazy rich
Right.
with the, Google, Apple, Microsoft, whatever, they have nothing to spend it on because they can't build it out, right? And then they work on power loads and stuff like that.
Right.
This again shows projections up to 2050 if there is no AI data centers in space.
Mm-hmm.
If there is, all this is
Changes.
tossed, and you go to far faster growth, doubling every, 1,000 times more or something. Another one of the companies that Elon has is Boring Company. They will be doing these electric tunneling machines on the moon. They'll probably make a lighter version of it, so they have to take it apart a bit so they can launch in a few pieces.
Right.
To take, because it weighs about 400 tons. Even if you have 200 tons on
Okay.
it, you probably want to have it. So it's either make it lighter, and they may make a lighter version, or take in 2 or 3 pieces.
Right.
I have projections related to the mass driver stuff we just discussed. Your 500-meter mass driver, other things, how much cement, where the factories are, how you be able to power. This is kind of like a projection going forward, just a summary of what I have on that. Some non-space stuff was that the Tesla Semi specs came out, the price of the Tesla Semi came out. So the 325-mile Tesla Semi, 500-mile, the $260,000 in price for the shorter range, $209,000 in price for the other one. The weight of the tractor is less, like the part that's doing the pulling is less than we had thought it would be. Previously, a few years ago, we thought it might be like 25,000 pounds, and now it's 23,000. And the other one's 20,000. So that means less weight on that means more weight for payload.
Right.
Right. So, and then efficiency is all really good. There've been a couple of Forbes pieces by the senior editor of Forbes. I've been calling him out where he lied about the price. It's kind of like weird. It's like he said it was $400,000 for that, and then he lied about the price of electricity.
Yeah.
Just like,
yeah,
just weird.
He said 40, wasn't he at 40 cents a kilowatt hour or something?
He was at I think 18 cents a kilo, which is like residential prices. Like the average U.S. residential price was what he was using. It's like you're plugging in your semi into someone's house charger. I don't understand what you're doing. And because it's like there's wholesale, industrial prices.
Right.
It's like this is like utility 101 kind of stuff.
Right.
And then he didn't ask Pepsi or DHL,
what they were
companies that are using 50, 100 Tesla trucks, and say, hey, what's your experience? Are you saving money? It's like he couldn't pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Your Forbes, you can't call Pepsi, you can't call DHL and say, hey, but he's saying, oh no, it's not gonna be profitable. It's like he's like, I choose to make up wrong numbers and then just toss them out there. And then he made 2 videos about it, and so it's like, very annoying.
Yeah. Well, and then I've been asking everybody, and there some people that I really like their opinion usually have been so negative on when FSD will come to the trucks.
Yeah.
And I know Elon said it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
No, but he said it's not a problem. I mean that so I'm not sure why people think it's going to be a year or two. I don't see somebody said backing up is the biggest issue. If backing up is the biggest issue, then we won't let it back up.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to back up until you get to the location. And so what do you need? You don't need it to back. I mean, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. It's a lot of weird excuses. It goes back to Bill Gates was saying, I'm a big billionaire investor, and I've determined that it's physically impossible for you to make a electric semi truck, can't be done, all that kind of stuff.
500-mile range can't be done.
500-mile range can't be done.
Mercedes also, right? Wasn't it Mercedes?
Mercedes also said that you can do 500-mile. If you do 500-mile range, that you've changed physics or done something like that. Right. Yeah. So
apparently they were wrong. You never bet against Elon.
That's right. Some other things about the XAI call, which is like huge, loaded with stuff,
Yeah,
was
yeah.
that X Money, which is what the payment thing
Right.
is supposed to launch. It's running internally, and then it's going to launch publicly in a limited trial to
Mhm.
the public in
A
about
beta.
1 or 2 months,
Mhm.
and then go wide, presumably in a few months thereafter, which will be huge.
Yeah.
And then they're making $1 billion per year in subscription money
Right.
for X. So they make the
Mhm.
ad money plus the subscription money. So all the performance for XAI. What are the things did you see in the XAI call?
Well, I think so I was most impressed with the overall depth and breadth.
Mhm.
So, some companies go deep and some companies go broad. They're going both.
Right.
They're hitting on all these different levels. And later tonight, I'll talk more about this with Jeff Lutz. But I think I think they've chosen the smartest deep place. So yes, they're going to do all of this stuff. In particular, the emulation of humans will go across everything.
Yeah.
But I think I've been saying this for months, and I think you'd agreed with me earlier, is that if you want to go deep in one place, the place to go deep is in video and gaming.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to just walk away. They said that they're doing more video right now than all of the competitors combined.
Right.
And they're doing more images than anybody. So they're
Right.
ahead on images, but no, on video, they got more than everybody combined.
Right.
And so if you can do the images, you can do the video, then you could also do what do you call it? The the metaverse.
Agent. Yeah. Yeah.
Metaverse.
Yeah.
Okay, where it's constant, you just go into your own universe and you're able to interact in that universe, and they're already showing some evidence of that. So it seems to me that those are going to be the big money makers, not the consumer, not even the enterprise. It's going to be people playing around, willing to spend some serious money to either watch videos or
I think the enterprise side with the emulated humans is a huge thing, but
right.
it's also a video intensive thing.
Yeah.
So basically, video intensive, difficult agent things, more compute.
Mhm.
If you have a compute advantage,
Yes.
or somehow you have 10 times, 100 times more
Right.
compute, then one, you build it faster,
Yes.
two, you just have more energy, then,
And
you know,
three, you've got an inference machine
right,
called 10 million vehicles that you
right,
may be able to rent space on their
right,
on their on their computers. So you have this inference machine that nobody else has.
right, right. Yeah, so they're leveraging the fact that they have compute distributed as well as the larger data centers. They said that the 1 gigawatt data center is 300,000 regular GPUs, mix of H200s and B200s and stuff, and then adding 220,000 B300s. So getting up to nearly 2 gigawatts of power. Again, faster than anyone else and more capability. So OpenAI had to cut back their video AI offering
Hmm.
because they didn't have the compute to do it.
Wow.
So they had to ration,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So again, it's like if you have the power, you have the compute, and other people don't, then you can offer services AI-wise that other people cannot. It's just like you may want to run thousands of factories or
Mhm.
500 million cars and
Right.
trucks,
Right. Right.
but
Right.
if you don't have the oil,
Right.
20 million barrels per day, you can't do it, right? So if you have more energy, you can do more stuff. Uh,
I think I might have asked you this before, but if I did, just forgive me, everybody.
yeah,
On the inference in the vehicles, I mean, I understand that when you're not using it at all and you've
mhm,
agreed to let them use it for X number of pennies per hour or whatever. But
yeah,
what about when you are using it? So all these robotaxis,
yeah.
is it possible to, like, my Macintosh, I can split my hard drive, right?
Right,
So
right.
can they split that chip in the vehicle and only use some part of it, even when the rest of it's being used for the car?
Um, yes, but they would want to do it with abundance of caution
I see.
because if they say, okay, I need to use all my compute because some emergency has happened, something really funky has happened,
Right, right.
and they may say, okay, I want to one, I would deprioritize. If I was doing anything for anyone else, I would stop doing it and say, okay, this is priority,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Instantly, boom.
Right,
So, so they would do it only on low priority jobs, where I could say, okay, I can make
right,
this guy wait if I need to.
right.
But if I can make it more efficient where it works on hardware three,
Mm,
right? So I have 3 times less compute and I can make it work. Then I have 2/3 of my compute
I
available,
see.
right?
I see. Yeah,
And then if I'm doing it in a cruising down the highway, everything's safe, there's
right.
no other cars, and it knows, okay, I'm using only 5% of my brain. Just like if you're driving your own
Yeah,
car,
yeah.
you can think, I can listen to the radio, I can do some other stuff.
100%. Yeah, yeah,
Right. So the more that they get better at it, then it's kind of, and in a safe situation,
yeah,
then 90% of what they're doing could be nothing. I could also be stopped. I could be,
yeah.
the car could be running.
Right.
I could be stopped someplace. Like, then it's like, oh yeah, take a job while I got 18 seconds till the light turns green.
Yeah,
I can do something else while I'm waiting. Right.
yeah.
So, and for a computer, that's like, I could do a bunch of whole thing. I can take a whole job, answer a whole question and be done.
And do they
Yes.
have a redundant chip? So in other words, I've heard people talk about 2 chips per car, 2 chips per Optimus. Is
Yeah,
that
I think they do have 2 chips. I'm pretty sure they have 2 chips.
so they have a
Yeah.
they have full redundancy as well?
Right.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah. So
But
that
then
the redundant chip then is available. I mean,
again, it's based on how I don't, get down to, just
yeah, yeah,
enough. I
yeah,
need
yeah,
to like make sure things are safe, right?
yeah,
So it's a question of like, you would, under abundance of caution, make sure that everything's safe in the
yeah,
situation. Whereas,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but even with that margin, yes, there should be available
Right, right.
capability.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's I mean, they just have so many advantages, and then then there's always Elon,
right.
uh, who was named by Forbes as the
Yeah.
number one most
Innovator, number
innovative,
one,
yeah, number
yeah,
one
yeah,
innovator, and it was like,
yeah,
duh.
yeah. That's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
How hard was that to come up with?
Yeah. If we do the AI data center stuff in space, we do the moon stuff, you
Yeah.
have to like the lifetime innovator achievement award, you have to give it to them. Yeah.
Okay, Brian, let's look at the numbers.
Mhm.
We've got Tesla up 88 cents today. I managed to buy it pretty well today. I'm back in the market. I've got more money coming in. I'm going to be able to invest. So it needs to stay down in this 420 range, but that's
Mhm.
okay. If it goes up, I'll buy. But I was happy to see it back off just a little bit and then go back up again. That was really good.
Mhm.
So, but after hours, let's see here, after hours, we're down 0.33%. So that's like what, a buck and a half or something. Um, any thoughts on where Tesla is right now, where it's going? What's next?
Um, Clearly over the longer term, we have, dry cell 4680 scaling, which is huge for the lowering of costs. We will have semi going. I expect, thousands of sales there. Um, Megapacks are moving along. So all of the um, grinding improvements are happening. In terms of the big change is FSD getting to 14.3, 10x parameter model, a lot more unsupervised things. So FSD and robotaxi are the way that we can really get unleashed, but it looks like um, the abundance of caution uh, thing they're doing to avoid any kind of like big setback is how they're proceeding. But at a certain point, it will be safe enough, everything will be good, and then they'll flip over. So waiting for that point is when things really move. But it seems that the market, like I think we broke a downward channel,
Right.
right? So we were going down, we broke a downward channel, we're over that point now. So then if we hold that next day, especially end of the week there, then we're back to maybe back to the 430 to 480 possibility range,
Right.
right? So then you'd be going sideways and then you need to prove that you can go up. So having the enough to go up thing, it probably needs major FSD and robotaxi
Catalyst.
news.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it seems like the China approval of FSD seems delayed. So
Okay.
that
Okay.
so I was hoping for that to happen. Maybe it's not, but they do have the China data center now. They got approved for that.
Mm.
So that would help
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
get the Chinese approval to happen. But um, so still waiting for some major developments, FSD and robotaxi.
Okay. All right. I don't know why the bonds are saying that it's unchanged, but it should have been out at 4 o'clock California time, but it's showing unchanged. Who knows why? Okay. But the bonds did come down. So the
Mhm.
jobs report had one good result, is that the
Mhm.
bonds went down to 418 now. So
Mhm.
that's the good news from today. And then oil, about the same, 64.90. It's eking up little bit by little bit. We don't want it to get too far up because then it starts rippling through the economy. So
Mhm.
maybe some of these guys need to uncork their wells and
Mhm.
start producing again.
Mhm.
Natural gas up 1.33, but still in very good shape. And then gold. All right, so gold down 1990, but after going down 1990, it's still at 5076. A lot of people that I trust think that gold is going to move dramatically down, that it's done, that any time that it gets to 150%, that the total value of gold gets to 150% of the total value of the stock market, that's it. And then it goes down.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, I think some of the people that I watch who seem to make more sense is that until you solve the debt deficit problems of the government, that you're still printing money, still generating more stuff, and that devalues your dollar long term.
You
So
did see
even
that.
if you have some
Yeah.
temporary strengthening, then if we're still running, 1.5 trillion plus deficits, $1 trillion plus deficits, then how can the dollar strengthen versus
Right.
hard assets? Yeah,
So you did see, though, that we did have a fourth month in a row of big time beat on last year's deficit.
right,
So
right.
that
But
can't be
less
less.
bad deficit is not no deficit
Right.
and is not,
All right. And silver down 2.45%. So silver has already the blushes off the no. Anyway, the silver seems to have settled into a situation where it's not really approaching that all-time high again. It's not even close. Yeah.
right, right, right. But I think that if we do the air distance in space, that's
Oh,
a lot of silver we're going to
out of
need.
silver, huh?
Right. So
Except
that
we,
actually, yeah. So, things can go choppy for now and whatever, but the more data centers we build, the more AI data centers we build in space, then, we'll have these huge demands. So any kind of like really huge technology takeoff where he's like doing a lot of that. So I'm not talking about like for the next year or two, short
yeah,
term,
yeah.
midterm. I'm just saying in the 3+ year time frame, it's looking like the demand will be over the supply.
So I think it was you that told me that all those craters that we see on the moon are the result of asteroids hitting the moon. And so
Right.
those asteroids came in and left all kinds of mineral deposits. Aren't we going to mine?
Only I think 1%, 3%
Oh,
of those are metal asteroids. You have
okay.
a lot of other
Uh,
junky
Junky
asteroids
asteroids.
that didn't have heavy metals. You need to get the heavy metal asteroids. It's just like you know, a lot of asteroids have hit the Earth, but the
Earth.
main ones in Saskatchewan or one in Kazakhstan have the uranium in them.
Uh,
Or you have other ones like the distribution of silver and other metal deposits
right.
on Earth would roughly correspond to something like you expect
Moon.
up there.
I see.
So it'd be a fraction, but you would know where to look to the point.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. Okay, all right. And then we've got Bitcoin down another 1237. So it's a 67,543. I've been saying for the last couple of days, knowing absolutely nothing about it. But looking at some of the charts, looking at some of where it's been in the past, I don't know what keeps it from going down to 40, but I don't think it goes below 40. What do you think?
You have the big 4-year cycle.
Yeah.
If you looked at the 4-year cycle thing where
Uh-huh.
like they
Yep.
really
Yep.
get brutally ripped.
Yep.
So if the 4-year cycle is fully holding, then we go down further. Um, but basically, though, toward the latter half of this year, it would start being a good time to buy, right?
Yeah.
If you think, okay, we're not changing from the 20-year cycle where the last 4 or 5 times that we had this big drop, we
Right.
came back,
Right.
right? And then you'd have another 3 years of a good run. So it seems to be that's a reasonable thesis to have. Not financial advice,
Yes. Yes.
just
Yes. Yes.
just looking at the squiggles on the line.
And I'm not planning to buy any either. Okay,
Yeah.
so then we've got, whoops, lost my page. We've got Ethereum down even more than Bitcoin, back under 2000 at 1957. And the equities for tomorrow, all three down just a bit, not strong enough to really give us a clue of what's going to happen tomorrow morning, but down a little bit. So what do you think? What do you think? Is it going to be flat tomorrow, waiting for CPI now that we've had this shock from the jobs number?
Um, I'm not sure.
Again,
So yeah.
yeah, okay. All right, we'll leave you on what this is a first, folks. I want to let you
Yeah.
know that on my show, as far as I know, Brian has never said those words before.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, don't forget to look down in the information below where you will find an easy, qualified investors only. You'll find an easy way to get into a one-on-one conversation with Brian. And it's right there at the top. It's going to be the number one thing when you go down and check. So we'll look forward to, or Brian will look forward to some of you guys hitting them up and doing a little conversation. Brian,
Okay.
thank you as always for
Thank you.
all that you do. And
Yeah.
to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.